second skin for the fallen and the ones who rise. In the name of freedom we ride the skies. We got the scars to show where we've been, but we wear them proud like a second skin. But we wear them proud to show where we've been, but we wear them proud. The door is safe. We're the heart of the storm where we've been, but we wear them proud like a second skin for the fallen and the ones who rise. In the name of freedom we ride the skies. We're racing through the fire, burning bright with the grit of the brave. We fight the night, no chains can hold us, no fear can break. We're GLR for glory's sake. Every life never turned to do or die with the spirit of warriors, the game. In the heart of the storm we found our way, on the edge of the way, on the edge of the wild we won't betray. In the heart of the storm we find our way, on the edge of the wild we won't betray. Every lap, every turn it's do or die, with the spirit of warriors we reach for the sky. We're racing through the fire, burning bright with the grit of the brave. We fight the night, no chains can hold us, no fear can break. We're GLR for glory's sake. We're GLR for glory's sake. We're GLR for glory's sake. We're the outlaws on the asphalt, running wild, we'll never fall. In the shadows where the strong survive, GoatLocker Racing, we come alive. We're brothers and sisters bound by the code. In the heat of the battle, we lighten the load. From the dirt to the track, we stand our ground. With a roar like thunder, we shake the town. We're racing through the fire, burning bright with the grit of the brave. We fight the night, no chains can hold us, no fear can break. We're GLR for glory's sake. We've got the scars to show where we've been, but we wear them proud like a second skin for the fallen and the ones who rise. In the name of freedom we ride the skies. From the first green flag to the final lap, we push the limits, no turning back. With the wind at our backs and the sun in our eyes, GoatLocker Racing, we'll claim the prize. We're racing through the fire, burning bright with the grit of the brave. We fight the night, no chains can hold us, no fear can break. We're GLR for glory's sake. Our way on the edge of the wild we won't betray. Every lap, every turn it's do or die. With the spirit of warriors we reach for the sky. We're racing through the fire, burning bright with the grit of the brave. We fight the night, no chains can hold us, no fear can break. We're GLR for glory's sake. But we wear them proud like a second skin for the fallen and the ones who rise. In the name of freedom we rise.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new
Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Maconi Entertainment, and welcome back to tonight's coverage of GoatLocker Racing's Cruisin Classics Wednesday Night Next Gen Series. This is round number 7 of the season, coming to you tonight from Atlanta Motor Speedway. This broadcast is, of course, being brought to you by Maconi Entertainment, here to bring all of the action to life. My name is Ron Mullins. Joining me in the commentary booth is Jeremy Briggs, and in the virtual production holo we have Marty Zakala. And now, Jeremy, heading into the first played race of the season since the season opener at Talladega all the way back in August, I don't think it's unfair to say that some of these drivers may be a little bit nervous entering tonight's race. But what are your thoughts heading into it?
Well, this Atlanta race definitely plays a little bit different of a feel on these fields of this super speedway racing because it's such a smaller track compared to Talladega and Daytona. It's great to be here on the broadcast. Hello to everybody that's watching at Nasty's Bar and Grill. Hopefully we have a great night of racing here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. We've had some fantastic races thus far this season, and the action's still set to continue. We'll take a quick look at the championship point standings because we are getting towards the end of this 10-race regular season here from this championship. So far, no driver has yet to grab more than one single win. Lucas Lyons, JJ Moore, Jesse Whittington, Cody McElwain, and Logan Sturgeon have backed their way into victory lane, with a lot of the other drivers that are qualified into the playoffs as it stands at the moment on points, and that is an incredibly close fight with Tyler Justice just above that cut line, only 2 points in front of Bobby Germain, who's the first car out in P13. But this qualifying session has been drawn to a close. Gonna get the starting grid gonna get that starting grid loaded up for you right about now. Kadorian Davis going to be starting this race from the pole position. Tanner Betha going to join him on that front row. Lucas Lyons, who's already grabbed the victory thus far this season, nearly grabbed another one at Bristol a couple of weeks ago. He's going to be starting this race in P3. Daniel D. Cunningham going to join him on that second row. Patrick Drapick in 5th. Zach Engel in P6. Blake Edel in P7. Jesse Whittington starting this race in the 8th position. Jason Taylor going to be starting in 9th. George Jewell going to round out your top 10 starting this race on the 5th row. Tyler Justice and Timothy Stubblefield starting P11 and P12 respectively. And rounding out your top 20, a packed field that we have for this race at Atlanta. Gotta be Logan Sturgeon in 13th, Jesse Nakula in 14th, Ryan Pendleton in 15th, Chris Sawyer in P16, Bobby Germain in 17th, looking to try and bump his way into the playoffs. Jacob Lenke in P18, Jake D. Collins and JJ Moore going to round out your top 20 starters.
And in 21st, one of the last few drivers here to take time is Chris Smith. Mark Hollyfield, 22nd. Chance Taylor, 23rd. 24th, Michael Kosaks is our last driver to take time tonight. 25th, Cody McElwain. 26th, Mickey Isaac. Jacob Ellingson, 27th. Timothy Wilms, 28th. James Kaufman, 29th. Charles Stevens, 30th. Doug Ellingson, 31st. And Joe Hobbs, 32nd, rounding out this 32-car field.
There we go. Thank you very much, Jeremy, and thank you, Marty, for the quick change of graphics. Still waiting for this pace lap to get underway before we get tonight's racing ready to rock and roll. And it felt like a little while since we mentioned him. Kadorian Davis going to be starting this race from the pole, and in the process picking up the Jam Printing and Promotions Pole Award based out of Plainfield, Indiana. Jam Printing and Promotions are local and veteran certified, and when they do well, they can do good for the community too. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofit organizations with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with GoatLocker Racing since the very beginning, and they provide GLR with all the promotional items they have, including shirts, hats, decals, dog tags, you name it. Jam is GLR's go-to promotional company. We would like to thank Jam Printing and Promotions for being a sponsor of GLR and sponsoring the Jam Pole Award. But Jeremy, ready to get things up and rolling for today's race. The draft going to be important, but avoiding that chaos going to be important as well at this very fast racetrack.
100 laps. You want to be there at the end as we take a look at our race analysis. 100 laps is the distance on this track tonight. This is I'm really excited for this, and the points battle is going to be tight to the end of the season, and we are getting ready to come to the green. No fast repairs. I believe the fuel window should be 68 to 72 laps.
Ready to get things up and rolling from the 7th race of this season. 100 laps in front of these drivers. Ready to grab the green flag is down. The drivers are on their way. Looks like a pretty good start for our pole man of Condorian Davis. He's going to be on the inside line, heading down into turn number 1 and 2 at the very beginning of this race. He is going to grab a comfortable lead. However, no lead is really comfortable around this racetrack. It's a bullpen in the super speedway world. Looking at the rest of the field, though, hang their way off through turn number 1 and 2, mostly clean. Heading down into 3 and 4 right now. Gotta say, Jeremy, we were talking about the pit strategy that these drivers may try and employ. Don't have the same pit entry that we have in real life. These drivers going to have to enter pit lane the way they used to do back when this track was a normal 1.5 mile track. But looking at the front of the field, it is still absolute pandemonium. These drivers more focused on making up moves than making pit stops.
Looking to the rest of the field right now, you got 4th right now, Jason Taylor. He's up 5 positions here early on, making a great charge to the front.
Yeah, looking at these drivers, you can see the rest of the field fanning out. Kind of starting to go single file. Condorian Davis still leading over Cunningham in P2, Edel in 3rd, Taylor and Lyons running at your top 5 as it stands at the moment. Most of those drivers going single file as it stands currently. Really, you can see that driver, the number 9 car on the outside. That's Betha, who we saw start at the front of this field. Not having a very good start for him, running in 8th at the moment in the number 9 Chevrolet. It has not been a fantastic start for him. He's already down 6 positions from where he started in this race, but still trying to make hay while the sun is shining, with the front 5 beginning to pull away. And it looked like Lyons trying to do that move going onto the apron. Don't think iRacing will allow that.
We'll have to see how it plays out, because I believe that is one of those things that the league officials would take care of. But looks like a lot of these drivers just trying to get single file. Maybe, just find their teammates. Oh, contact between the 9 and the 33 going into turn 3. Oh!
Into the wall goes to the 33. The 9 gonna keep it going. That's some pretty significant damage on the 33. We'll have to see if he can keep that car going in a straight line. That's Tyler Justice. That has a big bit of playoff implications for the driver, who finds himself north of that cutoff line, just barely, only 2 points in front of it. So this is going to be a huge amount of drama for the driver of the number 33 car, heading down into turn number 3, making big contact with the driver of the number 9, and big contact heading down the back straightaway off into turn number 3. That's Patrick Drapick in the 07 car, having a big amount of drama heading into one of the fastest sections of this racetrack.
Wow, we got drama all over the field. 6 laps in. As you look at the front, probably, 8 cars up front. Condorian Davis continues to lead the way with Daniel Cunningham on his back bumper. As we look at these drivers from these great angles. Man, that 9 car right there, that is Tanner Betha. And he is the one that got under Tyler Justice going into turn 3 and 4. And I don't know if there was enough room there for the number 9 machine, but he made it work, but almost wrecked the 33 in the process.
Yeah, that could have ended in an absolute disaster. Gotta say, Jeremy, it's not the first time I've seen a driver go for a move like that down the inside, heading off into the 3rd corner around this racetrack. However, the times I have seen a driver go for that in the past, it has usually ended in absolute disaster. But some drivers feeling a little bit racy. Zach Engel, the number 45 car, tried to make something work on that outside line. He's got 3 cars going with him, but I think he's still losing out on a little bit of time. Most of the front is single file as it stands at the moment. Condorian Davis still leading over Cunningham in P2, but those drivers trying to make that outside line work. It's now a pack of 4. You got Lucas Lyons in the 48 car joining that. Zach Engel in the midst of that as well. That's now 5 cars on that outside line. I feel like Condorian Davis or some of the other front runners are going to have to try and block off this move, because it's looking like that outside line is carrying a whole lot of momentum.
Looks like we're almost ready to be side by side for the lead. What is Condorian Davis going to do? Are we going to go to the bottom or are we going to go to the top? He's going to have to make some quick decisions here as we ride on board here with the number 48 machine, as he continues to make his charge to the front, as Condorian Davis has all this pressure from behind. As you look at the Daniel Cunningham machine of the number 91 all over his back bumper, trying to push him towards the front. The 48 machine here, as you now can see, is just fallen back to the 3rd position on the outside lane. Looks like the cars are not as organized as they were before, but we'll have to see if they can get reorganized and continue that charge to the front.
The field's still pretty close as it stands at the moment, with the top 23 runners all separated by less than 3 seconds, 10 laps in to this 100-lap race tonight on Maconi Entertainment. This is pretty entertaining as it stands currently, and Lucas Lyons trying to do something that no other driver has done thus far this season and grab a second victory from this still pretty fresh season. Only 7 races on the board. However, the driver of the number 48 car has been oh so impressive thus far. Grabbed the victory at the one super speedway race we've had thus far, that being the season opener at Talladega all the way back in late August. So he's pretty fast in these races, and he's cunning as well. Been 2 completely different styles of racetracks that we've seen him be in contention with. Talladega to kick the season off, and of course Bristol a couple of weeks ago, where he found himself in a catbird seat to try and grab his second victory on this season. However, things really did not materialize in terms of strategy, but the driver of the number 48 car looking to try and stake his claim on this championship fight, and with the front runners having to deal with some traffic as well, this may be the opportunity that Lyons needs.
Trying to make his way to the front. This top line has got a little bit of momentum. I can't believe it, but these 5 cars up in the top are really starting to make it work. When they get nose to tail really bunched up really good, they can make the charge to the front. I'm surprised no other cars have decided to make it up to the top. But as you can see right now, just 5 cars running the top line.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that that top line hasn't gained as much momentum as I was kind of expecting to, Jeremy. Some of these drivers a little bit hesitant to go for a move, especially so early on into this race. 13 laps on the board, coming to 14 this time by. However, that outside line carrying a whole lot of momentum. Look at Lucas Lyons, the lead car of that outside line, trying to snag the lead from Dorian Davis. It'd be the first time that the driver of the number 50 car has not been in the lead, and looks like Lyons is going to get that move done himself. An angle of clear him. Look at Angle driving down to the inside line, cutting in front of Dorian Davis, and it looks like Lucas Lyons is going to get hung out to dry on that outside line. 2 cars have just jumped ship, that being Angle and Pendleton, who now run in P1 and P2 respectively, but Lyons definitely going to be fighting hard as Angle's going to be throwing some blocks.
That 48 car is not going to forget that. Did all that work to get towards the front, and those drivers just ditched him as he's already got cars lined up to his back bumper trying to make the charge to the front. It looks like the top line is the fastest, but we'll have to see if anybody decides to stay up here. As it looks like everybody's pretty content, though, being single file with this 100-lap event here tonight.
And those sort of moves can definitely stick with a driver. I think, Jeremy, my perspective may be a little bit different, but if you were Lucas Lyons thinking of the move that Zach Angle pulled off on you a matter of only a couple of moments ago, you would kind of think about that. Even though we're only 15 laps into this race, you'd be thinking about come time for the checkered flag, if you have the opportunity to give the 45 a little bit of a break. I don't think you would give it to him, just based off the fact that Lyons kind of got hung out to dry there. He's still very lucky. The fact he's running up at the front, and really with that shuffling that went on at the front of the field, that's given the top line the opportunity it needs. It's now Jesse Whittington leading that top line. He's going side by side with Lucas Lyons, trading blows like it's going out of style. 2 Chevys and a car going into the wall that I believe may be Chris Sawyer, possibly trying to figure out who exactly that was that just hit the wall, heading through into the tri-oval. There you can see that's the 57, the 37 car. There we go. That's Jacob Lenke, the Toyota, and the Veterans for Life car going off into the wall. Didn't look like a major amount of contact. However, he is going to have to come down pit lane well out of sequence, and with about a 68 to 72 lap fuel window, don't believe you have enough time to make it back to pit lane.
He has a meatball flag, the 37 of Jacob Lenke.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Jeremy. That's still going to be a pretty big game ender for him, so to speak, because I'm not sure he'll be able to make it on fuel between now and the checkered flag unless he has some very timely cautions go his way. Tough stuff for him to get his race derailed like that so early on. But look, speaking of rails, it is a train at the front of this field, but it's 2 trains right now. We've got that bottom line and a big crash heading down into the tri-oval. That's a big amount of contact. That's a 78 car that we see spinning wildly out of control. He was the one that had some pretty significant wall contact. Chris Sawyer trying to get that car back going on the racetrack. The driver of the number 78 Chevrolet having a big amount of drama heading off onto that start-finish straightaway.
A great start to this race. Almost 20 laps into it. Green flag racing. As we look at that replay, 78 Man. Almost backs back into the field there. Ooh, that was close.
Yeah, that was a move that I'd probably see around the streets of the city of Philadelphia, trying to back up into oncoming traffic. Gotta say, not sure who that was, who's a matter of moments from body slamming into the 78 car, but I think as that incident has happened, we got some pit stops to talk about here, Jeremy. So right as I was saying, that damaged car, the number 37 that came into the pits not terribly long ago, was probably going to have to come into the pits yet again. I guess he came in at a perfect time because most of the front runners, including this man Lucas Lyons, are coming down pit lane. 20 laps on the board of this 100 lap race here from round number 7 of the GoatLocker Racing Wednesday night Cruisin Classics series. Let's see who's going to have the good run down pit lane and going to be able to take the lead of this race. Looks like a pretty quick stop there from Lyons, but look at this, a driver of the number 18 car, the Lucas Oil entry coming out of pits. That is a pretty quick stop from him, and that I believe is Blake Edel, who's going to be able to take the lead of this race off of strategy. Quick stop for him.
I'm surprised drivers are already making pit stops this early on, but they feel like this is what they need to do with 80 laps to go. These drivers are going to have to make their fuel still last another 60 laps, I believe, so we'll have to check into that.
Yeah, been a pretty hectic start to this race under the first caution period here from round number 7 of the GLR Wednesday night Cruisin Classics series. Gonna take a look at another replay of this incident with the 78 getting spun into the outside barrier. That's what's bringing out the first caution in this race. I think while we are under this caution period, I think we'll talk a little bit about Cruisin Classics themselves, because Cruisin Classics has been buying and selling cars for many years. A majority at first were your average daily. Passion has always been in muscle cars and hot rods. So in 1996, Cruisin Classics built a 56,000 square foot showroom located in Columbus, Ohio, that they still operate out of to this very day. All of their vehicles are hand-picked and selected to ensure that they fit their inventory. The facility is now arguably one of the best stock collections for sale in the US, housing hundreds of unique automobiles all under one roof. They invite you to their facility. There is something for everybody when you come and visit. We would like to thank Cruisin Classics for being the primary sponsor of the Wednesday night Next Gen series and being with GLR from the very beginning. And speaking of the very beginning, Jeremy, from the very beginning of this race, it's been hectic, and with some drivers getting up to the front and trying some off-the-wall strategies, despite the fact it's going to be very close and some of these drivers may be running on fumes, this is looking like it's already going to be an intriguing run to the end.
Different strategies throughout the field. I'm not sure who took tires and what amount of tires they took, but we'll see how it shakes up, because a lot can happen here at these drafting style tracks as these drivers are now lined up behind the pace car. Like we said, I believe we do have to still pit one more time, potentially. We'll see how close it's going to be for some of these drivers, and if they can save enough if we go green to the end.
Yeah, we'll have to see what kind of fuel-saving strategies these drivers try and implement. I think we're going to see a 200-mile-an-hour game of leapfrog, honestly, Jeremy, with some drivers exchanging the lead like they're Pokemon cards, but waiting to get this race back restarted. Now with 21 laps on the board, the green flag's down, the drivers are back on their way into turn number 1. It was a clumsy incident hanging to the quad oval that brought out this first yellow, but these drivers hoping to have another long green flag run. Pretty good start from Jacob Edel. He is going to be leading it with Whittington in tow. Got a fight between Lyons and Pendleton, those two cars trying to bring back the old tandem drafting era from NASCAR many moons ago. But looking at those 4 cars side by side, 2 by 2, heading off into turn number 4, getting this race back underway. The drivers up through the gears and getting back up to speed. Looks like Lyons and Pendleton working like a dream team and gotta try and clear those two on the inside.
We'll have to see how this run goes. Last run, it was a couple cars up towards the front would make about a 5-car train on the outside, and it was single file throughout the rest of the field. As you look just a little bit towards the back, there are a couple cars trying to peek out and make that top line work. As you can see, a lot of these cars now up towards the front bailing on the 48. Apparently, they do not want to help Lucas Lyons here tonight, as he seems to be pretty much the strongest car.
Yeah, it looks like some of these drivers maybe stabbing each other in the back. Certainly a little bit of betrayal going on early on into this race. Looking Nakula running in second. This is a very good result for the driver of the number 51 car. He's into the playoffs as it stands currently. However, he's got a dogfight on his hands to try and remain in that spot. Currently slotted in P2. As much as he wants to have a good point say, he would love to take a victory as well. Coming to the quarter-way mark of this race, 25 laps out of 100. And I gotta say, one driver that's certainly making moves is Patrick Drabick in the 07 car. We saw him have a very big moment of drama not terribly long ago in this race. He's running in 9th at this point, so Drabick, who started this race all the way at the back, picking up an end of longest line penalty after an incident 1 week ago at Dover. Drabick having a beautiful start here at Atlanta.
One of those camera shots, I looked up and I saw the 8 and the 07 turn. Oh,
Ooh.
we got one on the wall, I think. That was heavy contact. I did not see who that was.
And that was a side swiper of contact. Looking at that, that was the number 42 car of Bobby Germain, another driver involved in that playoff fight. He's currently slotted in P13 heading into the 7th race of the season, only 2 points back of Tyler Justice, who we saw have an off-track moment earlier on, hit the wall, picked up some damage. So both of those drivers right by that bubble running into some difficulties, going to try and figure out where Tim Stubblefield is, because he would be the one to capitalize off of all of that. But looking at this fight at the front, it is an absolute hornet's nest of next-gen cars, with the front 10 covered by about a half a second.
If we take a look through the field real quick, we look further on back. A couple cars that I normally see towards the front. J.J. Moore in the 54. He's normally towards the front. He's been riding back here in the 20s positions pretty much majority of the day here. I'm not sure if that's some type of strategy that him and his teammates might be trying to put together, but J.J. Moore definitely is going to probably want to get more.
That he certainly is. He's trying to get a piece as it stands currently. The real question is he going to try and is he going to be able to make up spots? He's certainly going to give the old college try between now and the end of this race, which is coming up in 72 laps time. Still barely any time on the board, but those laps are slowly being whittled away. These drivers keeping their nose to the grindstone and trying to just run their races as best as they possibly can. We've seen in the past in this series these drivers just be like, hey, look, these races are long. 100 laps around Atlanta is a pretty long race. These drivers probably thinking, hey, there's no point in racing hard because otherwise I'm just going to end up in the barrier. And if I try and go for a gutsy move 10 laps in, I'm just going to end up in the barrier and then I won't have a shot to win anyways. So you may as well just try and take it a little bit easy. And even though these drivers are avoiding making any sort of contact or any sort of bonsai maneuvers, they're still racing hard in that outside line. Despite the fact that it has lost a couple of cars, they still have a whole lot of momentum with Pendleton, the lead car of that outside line, leading this race overall.
We look at this top line. I think the top line is the best line around this track. It seems to be working well. Lucas Lyons, you can see there the leading car on the inside of the 48 trying to make it work. But it looks like the cars on the outside are more organized than the inside right now. As we got quite a few laps left to go. These drivers are maybe trying to get just these laps ticked off to get to the end.
I gotta say, one driver that has had a dream start to this race is Patrick Drabick. He's now slotted in P6. You can see him in the midst of that outside line, currently running 5th on that outside line as it stands, currently swapping positions with some of the drivers on the inside. We're now riding on board with the driver of the 07 car, and he's had a pretty up and down season thus far. You know, he's gotten involved in a couple of incidents, grabbed some poles, but as it stands currently, he is not in, well, he's not in victory lane thus far, and he is barely into the playoffs, only 17 points in front of that cutoff line slot in P10 as it stands at the moment. Drabick, though, has shown a whole lot of speed thus far this season, and I honestly think that's a matter of when, not if, that Drabick is going to back that car into victory lane. What do you think, Jeremy?
Being our previous champion, I don't expect it to take very much longer. Like you said, he's kind of needed some luck sometimes to kind of go his way, but obviously things did not go well at Dover. But we'll see how he finishes out here today, as we obviously got still 67 laps to go, I believe. And these drivers are making that inside line work again. Lucas Lyons with the 18 right there behind him of Blake Edel making it work. The 94 of Jesse Whittington as well. Those 3 cars on the bottom have made it work, as the 8 as well trying to make it work.
And looking at these drivers still battling hard, it's so hard to try and keep our eyes tuned to figure out who to follow next. Gotta say, two of the drivers involved in this absolute hornet's nest of next-gen cars, that being Mike Kostek. He's up 17 spots along with Jacob Ellingson, who's up 18, so a lot of drivers cutting their way through the field like a hot knife through butter, and they haven't had incidents to try and help that out. That's just down to pace and pace alone. But looking at this field, a little bit disjointed heading through the quad oval, but Lyons being able to get back up into the lead. However, he's still got a fight on his hands with himself and Pendleton, looking like that inside line starting to gain a little bit of momentum.
As we're right on board here with, I believe, the number 3 of Mike Kostek, so I believe I said 8 earlier, my apologies. The number 3 machine, as he is right there. Look at all the cars in front of him. It's quite the show to see. And right now, this track is so tight. You know, it's 2x2. It's really hard to go 3 wide. You can make it happen, but usually when you go 3 wide, that's when stuff happens. And right now, these drivers, you know, if you're going to make a pass, you're going to get to the top, push to the front, cut to the bottom, and see if you can make the push to the lead. But right now, everybody's just kind of riding it out.
And you brought up a very good point there, Jeremy, in reference to the way this racetrack drives. The fact that it feels like you have really no room to run or hide, despite the fact that this track was made back in the 60s, unless I'm very much mistaken, it was when this racetrack first opened, albeit in a much different configuration than what we have today. It's still a pretty old school track, and it still has that old school feel. As much as the fact that this track was made around the same time as Talladega and a little bit after Daytona was made, it wasn't designed to be a track like Daytona or Talladega. Those racetracks were made to pretty much be a track where drivers never had to lift off the throttle, and that got to the point where just running around in a next-gen car around those racetracks, you could just pin it and go around that racetrack like it's going out of style. Here, however, it's much different. It's a much different driving experience, and the mind games that go on for these drivers are a lot different than they usually are at a track like Daytona or Talladega, because it's a 1.5 mile track. You don't have a lot of distance out there on the racetrack, and in terms of the real estate that you have to work with heading through the corners, doesn't feel like there's any for these drivers at all. So when any sort of thing can happen, you can be in for a world of hurt. I think one driver nearly in for a world of hurt was a 41 car who I nearly saw end up in the barrier. That, I believe, was Taylor having a moment heading off into turn number 4.
That is correct. I saw that as well. One thing that happens, you really can't see out your windshield. When you're inside these cars, when you're looking from the inside of the windshield, you're lower in the car, so you can't see as far ahead of you. And sometimes these drivers are just catching that wall on the front stretch because there's that couple of quad oval look to it. And sometimes that front stretch wall catches a couple of these drivers off guard because they don't see the cars turning a couple rows ahead of them, so they're not as ready. So just a little scuff there for the 41. Seems to be going just as strong, as we're now 40 laps into this event. Still a lot of cars on the lead lap, if not all of them, I believe. But we got 2 cars off the lead lap, so 30 cars still with a chance to win here tonight.
I will say, though, Jeremy, if we have some sort of fisticuffs that break out, I think we're going to see the amount of cars on the lead lap pretty much halve. I mean, we saw it at Talladega in real life a couple of weeks ago when the field blew apart. Looking at that with a 58 car, that was incredibly close for some of the drivers at the front of the field. Got to be incredibly close for some drivers a little bit farther in the back, near contact being made. I was fully expecting there to be a big wreck coming out of turn number 2, and a little bit of wall contact. Is that Lyons in the midst of that? I'm trying to figure out who that is. That may actually be Bobby Germain that we are following, the driver of the number 42 car, having a major amount of drama, dealing with the 58 of lap traffic, breaking up that field a little bit, it must be said, Jeremy. So the lap traffic encounters around this racetrack, and it goes back to the point I mentioned a few moments ago of the real estate or lack thereof that these drivers have to work with. Even when it comes to lap traffic encounters, that can be a pretty big pain in the neck for some of the drivers at the front.
And it can lead to a lot of chaos, especially these drivers trying to stay in the championship hunt, trying to stay up front. Speaking of up front, Pendleton on the outside. Patrick Drabeck now finds himself in front of the 48 of Lucas Lyons there on the inside. On the outside, the 51 of Jesse Necula trying to make a run at it as well. And these drivers, I feel like the energy is starting to build right now. Everybody's starting to get more aggressive because we're coming to halfway, and now all the sleeves are starting to get rolled up.
You're exactly right there, Jeremy. The energy is building and the tension is building up as well. Even the driver who's leading this race as it stands currently, Ryan Pendleton, has a little bit of pressure on his hands. He's got Patrick Drabick on his inside looking at that pack. Drabick, as I've said, he's slotted in P10 in the playoff standings as it stands currently, only 17 points in front of that cut line, but he's trying to battle for the victory with the driver who's also on the inside at the moment. However, he's only in on points. Ryan Pendleton currently slotted in P7. He's 22 points in front of that cut line, leading as it stands at the moment. However, he wants to try and snag a victory because heading into some of the racetracks that we have to visit between now and the start of these playoffs, it's just a little bit of added security for these drivers to try and snag a victory. And if you're going to try and grab a shock win, which really won't be a shock win for any of the drivers that we see at the front at the moment, this would be the racetrack to do it.
As the opportunities to win become more and more slim for some of these drivers on the outside looking in. And speaking of drivers potentially on the outside looking in, the 27 of Jacob Ellingson has been making his charge to the front. He's plus 17 in that Lincoln Tech machine.
There we go. This has been a fantastic start to the race for Ellingson. We're riding on board with him, heading down into turn number 3. 46 laps into this race, and I think we'll be able to take a look at him there, have a little bit of a prying eye just to see the perspective of one of the drivers in this field. It's like rush hour traffic at about 180 miles an hour. These drivers are white-knuckling the steering wheel, driving to their heart's content, and we haven't even hit the halfway mark, folks, and this race has already been fantastically entertaining. That battle at the front is still hot. You got Pendleton and Drabick still trading blows like it's going out of style. Look at Jesse Nakula in the midst of that as well, going side by side with Lucas Lyons. Of the drivers running in the top 5 right now, a lot of them are in much different positions than each other. You've got the likes of Patrick Drabick, Jesse Nakula, and Ryan Pendleton, who are in the playoffs on points as it stands at the moment, but they want to snag a victory and have a bit more comfort heading into the final few races of the regular season. You got Lucas Lyons running in P2 at the moment. He already has a victory. He kicked this season off with a victory. He is probably, in my mind, one of the championship favorites heading in throughout the rest of this season. He's trying to snag his second victory on the season. Meanwhile, you've got Taylor, who as it stands currently is running in P6, was running P5 at the start of this long menagerie from me during this broadcast, but he's not even listed on the graphics that we have. He's a little bit farther back in the point standings. However, for a driver like Taylor, this would be a fantastic way to break your way into the playoffs and give us a little bit of an upset.
A lot of drivers feel like they can make that upset here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway drafting style track, of course. Let's look at all these cars coming out of turn 4 to tick off another lap. We are now at halfway.
That we absolutely are. One half down, one half to go. These drivers are still treating this race as if we're not on lap 50, but if we're on lap 100. These drivers pushing it to the absolute limit. Sometimes a little bit over that, Jeremy, but I gotta say, halfway into this this 100 lap race, halfway into it, the fact we've only had one yellow thus far has been pretty impressive. These drivers keeping it clean, and I gotta say, looks like that top line is starting to break up a little bit with that bottom line getting a lot of speed.
We look on board here with the number 9 machine of Tanner Betha. And you said it right there, we've gone green for a very long time, and that's one thing GoatLocker Racing has been somewhat known for here lately, is a lot of cars on the track and a lot of green flag racing, and has been very productive to talk about here in the booth. And these drivers are putting on a great race here tonight. I love what GoatLocker Racing does. They do a lot of good for the actual real life stuff for veterans and families in needs and stuff like that. So this has been some great racing, and hopefully we can continue it on.
Yeah, fingers crossed that the great racing is going to run from now all the way through up until the championship finale at Las Vegas Motor Speedway later on this year in the middle of December. It gives you more reason to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell here to Maconi Entertainment so you never miss any of the intense racing action like we have tonight from the GoatLocker Racing Wednesday night Cruisin Classics series at Atlanta. This fight is still on, but here comes Lucas Lyons jumping to the outside line, trying to give a little bit more speed to Pendleton, who's been leading that for quite some time, and has kind of led to the outside line's turmoil that they find themselves in currently, trying to make hay while the sun is shining. But I just don't think that outside line has enough momentum to get these drivers to completely clear the likes of Drapic.
There's a couple more cars just jumped up to the top side to help. The 84 up 21 positions of Charles Stevens in that orange car right there, number 84. Making some hay here now on the top. And he's got some help behind him with the 3 of Mike Kosek. Those drivers making their way towards the front, trying to help this top line to get working. As you can see, Jacob Ellingson right there and that Lincoln Tech machine on the bottom in the top 10.
Yeah, some drivers trying to get some moves done. I think it is, I mean, you hear this saying a lot. You got to strike while the iron is hot, Jeremy. The real question is the iron hot at this point? Is this the time to make those moves? Or do you really think 55 laps into this 100-lap race, some of these drivers may try and settle down, because we do have to worry about those pit stops as well, considering that they came only 80 laps in, and the fact we haven't had a yellow since, with 80 laps on the board, my apologies, only 20 laps into this race. I'm curious as whether or not these drivers can even make it to the checkered flag.
I doubt these drivers are doing that real life saving stuff. You know how they go to these super speedways and just save fuel to make themselves into the windows. I bet you these drivers are driving really hard right now. You can see their hands are working inside the windshields as they're continuing to be side by side. Pretty much for the first, 6 or 7 rows there. A single file throughout, so maybe those drivers that are just riding in the middle there might be saving fuel, but it's going to be really tight and it's really hard to save fuel.
Yeah, in the midst of this pack, if you try and save fuel, that's probably going to lead to a hellacious collision involving a whole lot of race cars. So these drivers just saying, screw it. They are bending the floor pans in these race cars, trying to get the maximum amount of horsepower, the maximum amount of speed that they can, because at this point, that's all that matters to these drivers. They are not focused on fuel. They are focused on positions and trying to gain as many spots as they possibly can. Lucas Lyons, he's the driver who's probably led the most amount of laps thus far in this race. Spent a whole lot of it up at the front, and a yellow coming out for an incident possibly a little bit farther in the back. 58 laps into this 100-lap race, and there it was heading through the quad oval. Mark Holyfield in the number 76 Ford Mustang involved in that. Not sure who else might have been. Joe Hobbs in the number 24 Camry. But a whole lot of drama heading down into the quad oval. Jeremy, let's talk us through what happened.
Let's take a look at this replay. Looks like a couple cars that weren't even attached to the pack. 2 cars all by themselves. God. A hellacious wreck.
Oh, that was a huge hit for the 24. Possibly the hardest hit we've seen thus far this season. Gonna take a look at another angle of that. But as you just said, Jeremy, a hellacious hit. Let's see another angle.
Looks like that pink car of that Mark Holyfield just got loose or something, and unfortunately led to a big wreck. One thing this caution's gonna help with though. Remember we were just thought, yep, got loose there on the exit of 4, overcorrected it. Hobbs nowhere to go. That's gonna do it for a lot of these drivers. But guess who's coming down pit road? All of them.
Alrighty, here we go. This is the money stop for these drivers. 60 laps on the board, 40 to go. They came in with 20 on the board, but now 40 laps later and with 40 to go, they are coming in. This is the most important stop for a lot of these drivers who can make or break a season. Gotta say, Blake Edel having a big pit lane overshoot, some more drivers having some pit lane overshoots and moving a little bit back. Not a challenge that Lucas Lyons is having. We'll see how things shake out for him. Is he going to exit out with the lead? It looks like he is going to comfortably in front of Ryan Pendleton. Looks like Patrick Drapic is going to be exiting out in 3rd. Not sure who that is in 4th as it stands with those drivers coming out of pit lane. May have possibly been Ellingson, I believe. Trying to figure out. Actually, no, that was Whittington. My apologies. That exited out right there. There you can see him All these drivers have had a pretty good race, a pretty clean race, and outside of 2 incidents heading down into the quad oval, it has been a fantastic race thus far. Gotta step aside for one moment, and we'll be right back with the finish here from the GoatLocker Racing Wednesday Night Cruisin Classics Series. And already we are back for the finish of this race. Less than 40 laps on the board. We've got some fantastic partners here from GLR, and we're going to talk about one of them right now, that being Lincoln Tech, because Lincoln's mission is to provide superior education and training to their students for in-demand careers and a supportive, accessible learning environment, transforming students' lives and adding value to their communities. They are one of the largest automotive technology schools in the nation with 23 campuses. They are the title sponsor of the Fall Series and also a very large partner of GLR. We would like to thank Lincoln Tech for being one of the fantastic partners that we have in this series. Very fitting that we just had these pit stops that have shuffled up the field just a little bit. Still got some of the heavy hitters at the front. The front row going to consist of Lucas Lyons on that inside, Ryan Pendleton on the outside. Two separate drivers running two completely different looking race cars. You got Lyons in the 48 looking to try and grab another victory. Pendleton, meanwhile, looking to try and sneak his way into the playoffs. The green flag gonna come back out for another restart. The green flag back out. The drivers are on their way, looking to try and see Lyons off to a pretty good start. Will he be able to see Pendleton heading off into turn number 1? I don't even think he's going to try and risk it. Actually, I say that looking like he's a little bit trying to get that move done, but just not close enough. And as I sound like a mosquito as they go onto the back straightaway, Jeremy, pretty clean restarts.
I'm sorry. It sounded like a mosquito. That's a pretty good analogy. I didn't even think of it like that. As we get back to racing here, side by side, pretty much second row on back. The number 9 machine pushing now the 84. They've kind of broken back. Now the top lane trying to get working. This was our first, we're 3 wide there, just behind them. Woo, very close quarters. I feel like the wick is going to be turned up, as that is our biggest, that was our longest run. I believe we are good to go to the end, and these drivers are ready to go win the race.
These drivers are certainly ready to give it their all in the final nearly 40 laps of this race. 36 left to go here from this 100-lap race tonight, but these drivers are still battling hard. Look at Drabeck trying to make something work on that outside line, trying to get a move done on Lucas Lyons. It looks like he's going to be able to clear him. That is a whole lot of speed on the outside line. Pendleton, meanwhile, with a whole lot of speed on that outside as well. It's a ticky-tack kind of back-and-forth game with all these drivers. You could best compare it to a 100-mile-an-hour game of leapfrog, but these drivers still battling hard. Drabeck, he's in a position whereby he can go down to that bottom line and maybe leave Pendleton out to dry, but I think Drabeck is trying to build up some adversaries in this series, unlike what we saw earlier on in the race with a driver whose name I do not remember when they abandoned Lucas Lyons in the first about 15 laps of the race. That didn't really work out for Zach Engel, as he's now careened his way down the running order. Drabeck trying to not make that same mistake and building up some allies to have at the end of this race, which can be so important in these plate races.
Absolutely can be so important, but man, the heat is... we're 3 wide again. These drivers are making monster passes right now, wasting no time. The number 9 machine of Tanner Betha is on the move. He really wants to win this race. He's been making aggressive moves all night long. The number 27 Lincoln Tech machine of Jacob Ellingson now finds himself as the second car on the inside row there.
This is a race with a whole lot at stake. These drivers looking to try and race their way into the playoffs, win their way into the playoffs with only a couple of races left to go when everything is said and done from tonight. Lucas Lyons, though, still leading it. He's already in the playoffs. He scored a victory in the first race of the season at Talladega, trying to prove that he is a Pied Piper in these plate races and trying to grab another victory, go 2 for 2 in the plate races that we've had thus far this season. However, you've got a whole lot of drivers looking to try and challenge him. You've got Jesse Whittington running in fourth. He's already snagged a victory. The same can't be said about the likes of Nakula, Pendleton, and Drabick running in that top 5 as it stands at the moment. Those drivers, they're either in on points or not in at all, and they are trying to race their way into the playoffs and race their way into victory lane and have a much more comfortable run to get there.
Speaking of racing their way in, Patrick Drabeck right now is showing complete dominance. He wants to be in charge of this race right now. The 48 machine of Lucas Lyons took the lead, and the 07 machine wasted no time of getting back around him to get back in front of him on that top lane. We'll have to see if that works out for him tonight, but he's definitely trying to make it known that he wants to win.
Yeah, looking at these drivers trying to battle as hard as they can. We're on lap 69 of 100, and we got some pretty nice racing out there on the racetrack. Clicking over to 70 now, and look at a bump. Trying to bump draft like hell, heading down into the tri-oval. The number 23 car, Ryan Pendleton, giving the bump of a lifetime to the back of Jesse Nakula's race car. That could have ended in an absolute disaster. Thankfully, some of these cars pretty well stuck to the racetrack, so helping them out a whole lot when it comes to that mad bumping that we are definitely going to see play a role in the final 30 laps of this race. Lucas Lyons leading over Jesse Whittington and Nakula. Lyons hoping that there's any sort of way possible to leave that pack in his rearview mirror. With modern plate racing, that just simply is not possible. The best thing he can do, though, is try and manage this race and set himself up for a good position come time for that checkered flag. We also got 2 green-white checkered attempts that we may have to use, and considering that we've been I've really been spoiled in terms of yellow flags. We've been spoiled with some fantastic green flag racing. These drivers are always pretty quick and pretty consistent and pretty clean in this series, especially in the past few weeks. But those green-white checkered attempts, I have a feeling, Jeremy, just based off the tension that is building at this racetrack at the moment, we may need to use at least one of them, if not both of them, to decide the winner.
Watching some of this bump drafting, it's turning into slam drafting. Trying to make these moves, trying to get that top line back to the front. As drivers are making shuffles, I believe the 48 and the 94 are definitely working together to make moves happen up towards the front. They've been pretty committed to each other's bumpers. And they've been kind of ditching everybody towards the front, and they go back to the bottom, but the top line always seems to come back around them. I'm very, very shocked that they continue to stay down towards the bottom.
Yeah, looking at this race at this point, I am shocked that they're still 2 by 2. They're battling like it's going out of style, and neither line has really lost out on momentum. Actually, I say that, Jeremy. I feel like they have lost out on some momentum, but it's been fairly equal. It's been fairly ticky-tack with these drivers. Occasionally, the bottom line will lose a little bit of momentum, allow the top to get in front. Then the top's going to lose some momentum. The bottom line's going to come back into it, and it's just that back and forth seesaw motion. It can give some drivers motion sickness, but for us in the commentary booth, it is absolutely fantastic to call them. Looking at that close side drafting attempt heading through turn number 4. Looked like these drivers were nearly trying to bang doors heading through turn 4.
Every little bit of side draft you can to get that car on your inside or your outside back just a little bit, to just take that air and try to tuck it into the wheel wells. It's like almost like a little parachute action. What do they say in Talladega Nights? Slingshot engaged. It's kind of how it works. And the 07 machine is right here behind the 23 of the Cruisin Classics machine, the 23 of Ryan Pelton. Look at that slam drafting. The 51 of Jesse Nakula trying to make it back to the front.
Yeah, at this point, these drivers throwing all caution to the wind. Can't even say it's a light tap. It's not a nudge or anything like that. It's pretty much just grabbing a sack of flour and dropping it onto your kitchen counter. That's the best way that I could probably describe the nature of the bump drafting and the bumps that these drivers are giving to each other. It's a dangerous game, though, and they're certainly playing with fire, because a mistimed move like that, especially heading through the quad oval, can end in absolute disaster. These drivers having to exercise a whole lot of patience with each other and also have a whole lot of trust in the cars that are around them. A little bit of mistrust and a small little misalignment of bumpers can end in a field clearing accident. As much as we've been saying that the wick is definitely being turned up in this race, you got some danger in the air. A big one could be
Especially
less
with a
of a
lap car.
wick turner, but more so a wick trimmer. Looking at that lap traffic getting involved in this as well. That, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, is a driver that we saw involved in an incident earlier on in the race, that being the very striking livery, the number 76 car. You can see him on that outside line, checking up some cars, and a big wreck coming out of the corner. The 9 car involved in that, the 44 as well. More contact being made. That, I believe, is Zach Angle getting involved in the midst of that. The 25, the 36, a field clear coming out of turn number 2. That's going to bring the caution out with 23 laps to go.
Only a matter of time before this event broke out. It happened very quick. We will take an aerial shot here, looking from the number 9, looking at the number 9 machine. Looks like contact earlier on already happened. The 9 machine is obviously stuffed in the wall with a 41. Nowheres to go. There we go. Looks like there's a little bit of contact. Oh, Ellingson. Heavy contact. That's probably going to wreck his left front pretty bad if it's not already broken. Looks like he already towed.
Ooh, and I think we'll take a look at Jules' perspective throughout all of that. Just wrong place, wrong time. That's really the best way you could describe a lot of drivers getting involved in these big one accidents, in these plate races. A little bit of bumping gone desperately wrong. Gotta say, the driver, the number 9, looking to try and avoid some drama after that car that was spinning on the inside. Ran a little bit wide, came to blows, and you could see a burnout out of frustration on that backstretch wall. Lots of drivers probably upset with how things have gone for them. The driver, the number 44, he's frustrated as well. Really nothing that he could have done, just a victim of poor circumstances. Big amount of drama heading through here, and Jeremy, here's a perspective from the number 45, the Zach Angle.
That's exactly what it feels like right here. We're pretty much just hopeless, along for the ride. Get some wrong hits. Just right about as we just take a look at the driver, just do, and the next thing you know, you're spinning out, and not much you can do when these wrecks happen, especially when you're going 180 miles an hour. Everything that happens, it happens very quickly. As I see a lot of drivers down pit road getting repairs. We'll see who can finish this race out. I'm surprised that Draybeck did not need repairs, because he was involved in that of some sort of way. I believe he's wall slapped the right side pretty hard, but he seems to be still out there and still good to go. Now into the conversation, into the top 5 though, with 20 laps to go. Cody McIlwain finds himself in 5th place. One of the drivers that everybody talks about that comes to these races and is always a threat to win, now in 5th place.
Yeah, McIlwain has had a pretty up and down season thus far. Finds himself in the 6th spot with 20 laps to go from this 100-lap race at Atlanta. Already made his way into the playoffs, and I gotta say, we've been underselling him a little bit. We've been saying that there's been no driver to grab multiple victories thus far this season. That is a lie for me, folks. I wholeheartedly apologize for that, as Cody McIlwain has grabbed 2 victories thus far. He's currently slotted 4th in the playoff standings as it stands currently, but he's been pretty fast in that 6th, so we'll have to see if he can try and grab the 3rd victory this season. That would be a fantastic result for the driver of that Ford Mustang. Coming back to green in just a couple of moments' time, Jeremy. Gonna be less than 20 to go when we grab the green, and as much as this race has been hectic thus far, I feel like it's gonna crank. It's not even gonna get cranked up to 11. I think it's gonna get cranked up to 11,000.
It's gonna get really cranked up, and the tension up here is I can feel it. Just everybody wants to go. This has been some great racing. GoatLocker puts on some great racing. We still got at least 25 cars with a chance to win here. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Whole lot to go in this race. We've already got 80 laps on the board, so it may not seem like the final 20 are daunting at all for these drivers, but trust me, folks, these last 20 laps are make or break for a lot of these drivers, especially the ones looking to sneak their way into the playoffs. The green flag back at Nakula, one of the drivers involved in that championship points fight to sneak his way into the playoffs. He's leading it over Lyons, those two breaking away, having a beautiful restart with 19 to go. They're extending a little bit of a gap to themselves and Ryan Pendleton in third. Some drivers going side by side a little bit farther in the back and snaking their way going down the back straightaway. But Nakula and Lyons having a dream start, but I think it's like the case of Icarus flying way too close to the sun and melting his wax wings. With the gap they have, they are going to be a sitting duck when the likes of Pendleton, McElwain, Drabeck, and Stevens catch up.
McElwain trying to do everything he can to make some of these moves to the front, and he finds himself in a good spot, just needs some help, as it looks like everybody is finally just starting to catch up to those leaders that got broken away. We'll have to see how it plays out, if they can hold off this pack.
Looking at this field, it is a miracle that we've only had 3 caution periods with how hard they've been racing. The racing is still continuing, though. Lucas Lyons getting hung out to dry on that inside line. He was leading. Now he slipped his way into second. Make that third. Is it going to be turned into fourth? We'll just have to wait and see. The rest of the bottom line has called up to him, but Lyons getting hung out to dry for the second time in this race.
You can definitely tell which drivers want to work with who, as they definitely start hanging people out to dry. Hopefully that doesn't happen late in the game, because sometimes when you get cars getting left out like that, they can make some hay happen. And speaking of cars on the move, JJ Moore in the 54, I was talking about him earlier, being towards the back of the pack. He now finds himself just inside the top 15.
Yeah, shows you the topsy-turvy nature of these races. You can find yourself in DFL, as some people would say, and then in the span of about 50 laps, you can find your way back into contention. JJ Moore following him. Condorian Davis, who we haven't really talked about too much ever since he lost to the lead of the race, he's running in 8th as it stands currently. So our pole sitter who picked up the Jam Printing and Promotions pole award still in contention for this race victory when everything is said and done. But we still got 15 laps in front of our face in this race, and it's going to be a battle to the checkered flag to see who is going to be victorious. I really can't even predict who's going to be victorious in this race, Jeremy. There are so many drivers that have some pretty quick race cars, and there's so many twists and turns that he can have between now and the end of this race. 14 laps usually may not seem like a whole lot of time, but in these plate races, 14 laps feels more like an eternity than anything else.
14 long laps, your anxiety's building, your adrenaline's building. You're trying to think in your head, what do I need to do to get myself to the front? Who do I need to go with? Who wants to work with me? Do I need to make this pass now, or do I need to wait? So many things going on for these drivers right now. Anything can happen, especially with all the speeds we've got. We're going 180 miles an hour, side by side, lap after lap. This is just going to be mentally taxing. So much stuff going on. I am excited to see this play out. We got 13 or 12 and a half laps to go.
Oh, you can see the bumps as we're riding on board with Drabeck getting the boot scoon boogie, it felt like, from Lucas Lyons right behind. These drivers are playing a dangerous game with those bump drafts. I feel like it's only a matter of time before something has got to break. We've had a pretty clean race thus far, but these drivers are playing with fire at the front. With those bumps heading down, not even through the corners, heading down the straightaway, I'm sure that Patrick Drabeck was sawing at the wheel to try and keep that 07 car at the front and on the racetrack rather than DFL and in the wall. So at this point in time, Drabeck feeling the burn. Pendleton trying to pick up the side draft from Lyons, and that's going to slingshot him around the outside and be able to take the lead of this race. Now with 11 to go from round number 7 of the GoatLocker Racing Wednesday night Cruisin Classics series at Atlanta Motor Speedway. This is looking like a surefire grandstand finish. Pendleton, Nakula, McElwain, Drabeck, Lyons, and even Edelus had to come back from the brink of disaster after a very slow pit stop not terribly long ago, and even Kostek running in 8th. Lots of the drivers in this field and lots of the drivers inside the top 10 have a whole lot to gain if they can get the job done.
Who does not want to win this race right now? We got 20 cars in the mix for the win. Look at all these cars on the track. What a great showing of drivers here tonight. Here with GoatLocker Racing on Maconi Entertainment. Oh, the 84 gets shuffled out. But been slightly slow here earlier. Oh, 84 gets really loose. Great job hanging on to it. That's going to kill the momentum of the inside lane though.
Ooh, Charles L. Stevens in that number 84 Chevrolet having to crank a whole lot of wheel lock into that thing, heading through every single corner. As much as the drivers at the front are trying to strategize about how things are going to shake out at the end of this race, they're having to worry about the possibility of ending this race under a green-white checker territory, in which case all caution is thrown to the wind, and these drivers are going to be gunning for a victory regardless of what it takes. Looking at that field, though, it's a massive pack of NASCAR next-gen race cars. At this point, Pendleton is leading it over Nakula and P2. They're on the outside line. On the inside line, however, you've got the duo of Drabeck and Lyons kind of adding a little bit of a shake and bake effect into this race. Those drivers have been quick in this series. They've grabbed poles, they've grabbed victories. Drabeck looking to try and grab his first victory of the season. Lyons already snagged the first win of the season at the only other plate races that we've seen thus far. That was near disaster with the two of them heading down into the quad oval. This bump drafting between Drabeck and Lyons is getting sketchier and sketchier, not even with every passing lap, but with every passing corner and every other bump. This is near disaster. These drivers are playing with fire. It's such a dangerous game that they are playing with, and I hope they realize that if they make a small little mistake, a little bit of a bumper misalignment, and it could end in the whole field being blown apart.
One thing that 48 machine's also going to start being cautious with is making sure he's watching those engine temps. He's been pushing the 07 and Drabeck really hard for a lot of laps. He's going to get his car hot. As we look at those cars on the top though, Pendleton, Necula, and McElwain making that charge up there work. Can the 48 of Lyons, though, continue to push the 07 to get him? Oh, man, him sideways. He's pushing him so hard here.
Those two continue to play that dangerous bump draft game now with 5 laps to go from this race. And look at that. Drabeck nearly getting sent for a spin into the apron heading down into turn number 1 and 2. This is a dangerous game. I cannot stress this enough, folks. These drivers are pushing the limits of their race cars to hell and back, and the real question is, are they even going to be able to make it to the checkered flag? Because I think with that aggressive bump drafting, it's not really working. Lucas Lyons, a pretty young guy himself, and I'm curious if that youngness is kind of resulting in him having a little bit of a bonsai approach to the bump drafting, nearly going to spin his teammate. Wow. He keeps it going. Patrick Drabeck with a badass save heading down into turn number 1 and 2. Probably going to have to come in for a change of pants after that, but it keeps the green flag out. He kept that car going in a straight line. Right as I was mentioning, that aggressive bump drafting was hurting them rather than helping them. You see that get put on full display as now it's a fight with Pendleton and Nakula for the lead and the win.
The field pretty broken up here though with just 3 laps to go. Who's going to drive to the back and then try to push everybody back towards the front? We got this lap car here towards the front. Which way are they going to go? We got them 3 wide battling for position back here. We got the 76 up top. This is going to be all heck breaking loose right here. We're getting ready to come to 2 laps to go.
Oh, it is pandemonium here. I could best describe it as the entrance to a Walmart on Black Friday with the TVs on a 0.5% discount. This is insane that we're seeing right now. These drivers throwing all caution to the wind. Look at McElwain trying to get that move done. The driver of the number 6 looking to try and snag his third victory of the season. He's on the inside line, and he's got some help from Blake Edelman Edel in a world of hurt in terms of that playoff hopes. Big wreck going down the back straightaway, and that's going to bring the yellow out. Kadorian Davis involved in that. The driver that started this race from the pole spun around. Some more cars involved in that, but in a cloud of smoke, that yellow is going to come out, and it sends us into green-white checker territory.
First of two. Looks like a lapped car involved. Boy, business was heating up. We were getting ready to come to the white flag. This was going to be one heck of a finish. We'll have to see what these drivers decide to do, who they want to push when we come back to green. But as we take a look at this quick replay, oh, contact there between the 50 and the lap car.
God.
Who goes, that looks like a skateboard move over the top there of the number 81, I believe.
Holy cow,
The
that
01,
was a hellacious
think.
impact. Looking at another angle of this, that was the 76 car who's had a very torrid time of things, and that was a horrible impact into that inside wall going down the back straightaway. Gotta take a look at another angle of this time an onboard shot of the driver of the number 76 car, Mark Holyfield. My God, he nearly ballparked it there. Gonna take a look at an angle. Oh my good Lord. We got a perfect view of the inside of the 76 car because that was a huge crash coming out of turn number 2. Here's the last angle that we're going to be taking a look at. Kadorian Davis involved in the midst of that. Tough for him. The driver of the number 50 car has had an up and down show, and it looks like that is pretty much going to end his contention in this race. And here's the 76 perspective of the big impact, nearly going upside down, nearly ballparking it, damn near ended up in the RV park.
As we get back to live here, it looks like no real big takers on pit road, just damage fixers. Up front, Cody McElwain, Ryan Pendleton, Jesse Necula, Blake Edel will be your first 2 rows. Who's going to push the best? We're only going to have a green-white checker to get this figured out. The drivers will not have long to make that momentum move happen. Who are they going to go with, and who are they going to stop pushing to make it if they can go to the win? These drivers got so much to go through.
Yeah, what of these drivers, which ones are going to have the affiliation with some of the cars around them? Who's done the stupid moves? Who hasn't done the stupid moves? Who has annoyed the drivers around them, and who hasn't annoyed the drivers around them? That's going to be the big factor in deciding who's going to be victorious in this race. Gotta say, with this field still under yellow, I believe we'll be coming to actually, I believe we are coming to the green this time by. So, Jeremy, this feels like a perfect time to ask you this, kind of putting you under the spotlight here. Who's your pick to win this? I know it's very hard and it's a loaded question, but who's your pick?
Cody McElwain. I believe he's going to go for his 3rd win of the season. He's got himself up to the front, and I feel like he's just been strong enough here at the end, making the right moves. I think he's going to make the right moves to get himself in victory lane.
And he's had a pretty good show thus far of 23 spots. He's in a pretty good battle with himself and the driver of the number 84 car, that being Charles Stevens, who as it stands currently up 22 spots. He's going to try and make it up and possibly be the hard charger when everything is said and done from this race. Gotta say, though, I have a pretty good feeling about Ryan Pendleton. The driver of the number 23 car has been incredibly fast thus far this season, has occasionally been hit by a stray falling anvil. However, he is fast, currently slotted 7th as it stands at the moment in the playoff standings, 2nd of the drivers that are locked in exclusively on points. He has a 22-point cushion between himself and the driver on that bump line, that being Tyler Justice, 12th entering this race. But I have a good feeling about the driver of the number 23 car. Let's just wait and see. 2 laps to decide it. Is this the first overtime attempt, or are we going to have to go for another one? The green flag back at the drivers back on their way, and as they go through the gears, McElwain going to have a mighty restart on that inside line. Some drivers going for some aggressive moves a little bit farther behind. McElwain, though, he's got the number 51 of Jesse Necula as his bump draft partner. Pendleton, meanwhile, has Blake Edel, and you've got a mountain of NASCAR next-gen cars right behind them. them. Gonna be heading through 3 and 4 for the second to last time in this race, maybe with some big stacking up a little bit farther in the back. Some drivers have some big sideways snaps ending up in the wall, but that's not going to bring the yellow out. The white flag in the air, which means one more lap of racing action here at Atlanta. Pendleton getting pushed to high hell from Blake Edel, the driver of the number 18 car, wearing out the number 23's back bumper, heading down through the quad oval off into turn number 1. Pendleton leading them going down the back straightaway. Edel, though, he finds himself in a really rough spot when it comes to the championship fight, but look at Lucas Lyons on the inside line. Lyons, who scored the victory at Talladega to kick this season off, gonna try and go for 2 for 2, but it's not gonna be close enough. Ryan Pendleton wins it when everything is said and done. Blake Edel had a hell of a charge towards the end, create a photo finish with himself and Pendleton, but Edel going to finish in second. And look at Timothy Stubblefield, the driver who entered this race P14 in the playoff standings, 3 spots back of the cutoff line, has a brilliant show to end up third when everything is said and done. But Pendleton takes his first victory of the season, sealing his deal and locking himself into the playoffs here from the GoatLocker Racing Wednesday Night Cruisin Classics Next Gen Series. Pendleton, your victor when everything is said and done. And we're going to take a look at a replay of that drama heading down through turn number 3 and 4. You can see those drivers wrecking a little bit farther in the back. Coming to the line, though, I thought Lyons had it, went onto the apron. That really killed his momentum. And look at Blake Edel in that 18 car, had a whole lot of speed. Coming to take the checkered flag, just wasn't close enough to get the job done on Ryan Pendleton, who grabs his first victory of the season, an overdue victory for sure, but he still ends up getting it. And as these drivers burn their tires down to the canvas on the start-finish straightaway, gotta take a quick little commercial break, and we'll be right back with some results, interviews, and wrapping things up from tonight's coverage here on Maconi Entertainment.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to tonight's coverage of the GoatLocker Racing Wednesday Night Cruisin Classics Series. Round number 7 has just concluded, and this man, Ryan Pendleton, in the number 23 car, is victorious when everything is said and done. It was a hard-fought show to the checkered flag with a green-white checkered attempt thrown in as well, and some drivers going for some absolutely fantastic moves towards the end of it. Ryan Pendleton, though, is victorious, and we'll take a look at the final results. When everything is said and done from 100 plus laps of fantastic racing here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, Ryan Pendleton in the number 23 car wins it and seals his deal to make his way into the playoffs. Blake Edel has a pretty good show. I believe the strongest showing he's had thus far this season. He finishes in P2, less than a half a tenth behind Ryan Pendleton when everything is said and done. Those two drivers coming across a line side by side. Timothy Stubblefield, who entered this race 14th in the playoff standings, has a brilliant points day. It may not be the victory that he may have had in mind, but P3 is still brilliant for that driver. Lucas Lyons, he put on a hard show, however, just wasn't close enough. He ends up in 4th. Cody McIlwain, the driver of the number 6, already has 2 victories on the board. Gonna round out your top 5. JJ Moore, Jesse Nikula, Charles L. Stevens, Bobby Germain, and Chance Taylor going to round out your top 10. Looking a little bit farther behind, Patrick Drabick, who kind of got shuffled out a little bit closer to the end of this race. He ends up in P11 when everything is said and done. Jake D. Collins finishes behind in 12th. Logan Sturgeon, who already has a victory thus far this season, finishes in lucky number P13. Mike Kostek finishes in 14th. Tyler Justice, who entered this race in that final playoff position, not going to help out his chances at all, finishing P15 in this race at Atlanta tonight. Jason S. Taylor going to finish in P16. George Jewell finishes in 17th, and Jesse Whittington ends up in P18. And looking at the final drivers finishing inside the top 20, we have Daniel D. Cunningham and Timothy Wilms.
Just outside of the top 20, you got Zach Engel there in 21st. 22nd is Chris Smith. 23rd, Chris Sawyer. 24th is James Kaufman. 25th, who started on the pole, started on the pole there, was the Condorian Davis machine. He finishes 25th. 26th, our last car on the lead lap, is Mikey Isaac. And then these cars are a lap down. 27th, Doug Ellingson. 28th, Mark Hollyfield. 29th, Tanner Betha. 30th, Jacob Ellingson. 31st, Joe Hobbs. And 32nd, rounding out our field, Jacob Lanke.
There we go. Those are the results when everything is said and done. We got some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area. First driver we're going to have a quick little chat with is the P3 finisher. When everything is said and done, Timothy Stubblefield now joining us in the commentary booth. And now, Mr. Stubblefield, it was a pretty good show from you when everything is said and done. Entered this race right outside the playoff cut line, only 3 points away, but you leave this race with a P3 result. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was a good Atlanta race. I kind of just chilled in the back to stay out of trouble, and I think that last caution, I kind of eased my way back up there, and that last green white checker, I just stayed on the outside and hope for the best. And I think that bottom line didn't take off so good, and I got up to P3.
Well, finishing P3 is certainly something that you aren't going to be scoffing at one bit. A fantastic result in terms of the points, especially with only 3 more races left to go until the start of the playoffs. What are your thoughts about the fight to try and make it into that playoff field?
Oh, it's a tough fight. Every position point counts, and I'll take this top 3, and hopefully I can take a couple more top 3s on these next 3, and hopefully get a win.
Hey, I'm sure you would not mind a victory at all, and we could see you possibly grab the victory at Indianapolis in 1 week's time. What are your thoughts heading into that race?
Practice. I need to put in a lot of practice. Be off your marks a little bit, you can lose 2 or 3 spots easily. So, I'm gonna put a lot of practice in this over this weekend.
Well, that is what the doctor is going to be ordering, and at a track like that, it is going to be tough for you drivers in this series, but I'm sure just like all the other tracks that we've visited thus far this season, y'all are going to put on an absolutely fantastic show. And now, congratulations on the P3 result, Timothy, and before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
I want to give a shout out to Cruisin Classics for sponsoring the league and everything, and Nasty Bar Restaurant and Bar, and Maconi's, and for broadcasting and everything, and in the league, Jamie, all them putting on the league, and we're gonna come out and put on a good show next week and the rest of the season.
Alrighty, man, sounds good. And congratulations on the P3 result. I'm excited to see you back out on the racetrack for the rest of the season, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And that right there was Timothy Stubblefield, who ends up ends up on the podium here at Atlanta. We'll be talking with our winner in just a couple of moments' time. But Jeremy, you want to have a chat with our P2 finisher, Blake Edel?
Absolutely. We're bringing Blake Edel up here into the booth now. Our position number 2 finisher. Blake, you started 7th, found yourself in 2nd to finish it off. What was your night like?
It was pretty interesting. I mean, it was smooth sailing until my second pit stop. Slid through my box, had really old tires, and slid through the box and had to back up. It was pretty bad. Came out in like 19th. Kind of slowly worked my way back up there for the end of the race. But yeah, I mean, for an Atlanta race, it was pretty smooth, generally speaking.
Yeah, that's one thing I've really started to enjoy about these GoatLocker races is when everything goes good, everybody puts on a really great show. I mean, 32 cars here at Atlanta is no easy feat, And you came up here in second position. Who do you got to thank for getting you here tonight?
Yeah, I gotta thank Lincoln Tech, Cruisin Classics, Nasty's Restaurant and Bar, Jam Printing and Promotions, Maconi Entertainment, and also a shout out to Above the Yellow Line. That's a cool podcast you guys should check out. I just recently found it. I've been enjoying it, and those guys have been helping us out as well. So, shout out to those guys, and appreciate you guys for putting on the broadcast, man. This is really cool.
And we appreciate you coming out here to drive, Blake. Congratulations on second place. Hopefully, next time we talk to you, you're one position better.
I appreciate that, man.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
And that right there was Blake Edel, who finishes in P2, only a matter of feet away from snagging the victory. But the man who is victorious is Ryan Pendleton, who's now joining us in the commentary booth. And now, Ryan, after a whole lot of trials and tribulations thus far this season, you finally got that number 23 Ford Mustang into victory lane here at Atlanta. Talk us through it.
Yeah, really happy about it. Got to thank my teammates. We were all a little bit spread out in the start of the race, and then towards the end there, we were all kind of up there. Pat was up there. We were kind of controlling both lanes. Then Cody got up there at the end, so that was exciting. We were hoping maybe to pull off another 1-2 finish. It didn't work out there on that last restart. Hate it for Jake. He needed the points tonight, and he was super fast and competitive. Just didn't have the luck, but. Yeah, long race. I thought overall, once again, the league showed what it's capable of. I think maybe 4 cautions in a 100-lap race at Atlanta with 30 cars. I think it's pretty good. Hopefully the broadcast showed well. Yeah, so I was happy with it.
Yeah, from our perspective in the commentary booth, that was an awesome race to follow. Y'all put on a fantastic show week in and week out, track in and track out. I'm sure heading into the final 3 races of this regular season at 3 completely different racetracks, being able to grab the victory here at Atlanta and lock your way into those playoffs, going to make it a little bit more easy for those next 3 weeks. Less nerves, to say the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you win and get locked in, it just relieves some of the pressure. Obviously, as a competitor, you want to go out there and do your best every time, but now maybe the team can focus. I know they'll be working hard. Hopefully we can get Jake a win, get him into the playoffs, because he's definitely got the talent and speed to be in the playoffs. He's just had some pretty raw luck this year. So I think the rest of the team will do okay and get in, we hope. I know Cody and I are locked in. I think Pat's doing really well in points. So kind of shift our focus, maybe help Jake get up here in victory lane and talk to you all.
And we'll just have to wait and see what the final 3 races of this regular season brings. Gonna be heading to Indianapolis in 1 week's time. What are your thoughts heading into that one?
I love running these cup cars at the Brickyard. There's a lot of guys that do, a lot of fast guys. I just think it's fun. It's a completely different track. It's flat, the different turns, and it's just Indianapolis. And to me, Indianapolis, since I've been young, is a special place. I was fortunate this year to go with my father, the Indy 500. So anytime it's Indianapolis, whether it's real world or virtual, I'm all about it.
Well, I can definitely say that I join you in that category, Ryan. I've been a big fan of IndyCar for many, many moons now. Watched my first race all the way back in 2011. That's going to be a pretty good race in 1 week's time, but you had a pretty good race here at Atlanta, and you walk away with the victory. And before we let you go and celebrate, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Absolutely. As always, everyone that supports GoatLocker, you guys at Maconi set up shop for the broadcast, and obviously the setups that you provide for Friday nights. I have Cruisin Classics on this car, so this league is presented by Cruisin Classics and Nasty Sports Bars, so huge shout out to them. And then the long list we have of all our supporters of GoatLocker: Lincoln Tech, Hidden Whip Brewery, Veterans for Life Foundation, and Veterans for Life Racing. InVet, Jam Printing and Promotions. I need to start saying them first. Amber and that team is awesome. They support us in so many different ways. V-Speed, Nazareth 360. And then we have so many other partners to go through between Sim Motion, Next Level Racing, Alexander PCs, iRacing, and Above the Yellow Line. A lot of the things we're doing off the track, providing these simulators to veterans and first responders. That group I just said, it has a big part in it, and we couldn't do it without them.
Alrighty, well, there you go. Ryan doing the shout outs like an absolute pro. Congratulations on the pro performance here at Atlanta tonight, and excited to see you back at on the racetrack for the rest of the season, man. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
And that right there was Ryan Pendleton, the driver who walks away from Atlanta with a playoff berth and a victory. It was a hard-fought show here at Atlanta, Jeremy. A fantastic race, but Indianapolis in 1 week's time looking to supply a much more different brand of racing than what we saw here at Atlanta tonight.
Definitely a much different type of racing, but I believe it will still create the great finishes that we've been having here week in and week out with GoatLocker Racing. I am excited for another week of racing. Indianapolis will definitely put on another good show.
And Indianapolis is just one of the fantastic races that we're going to have between now and the end of this regular season. Got Indianapolis, Gateway, and Darlington to bring us into the playoffs. And we've got another fantastic batch of races that we're going to be visiting there. But more on that in the next couple of weeks. I'll tell you what, if you enjoyed this action tonight on Maconi Entertainment, you should probably hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you're watching this stream on YouTube so you never miss out on any of the action. That's basically daily here on Maconi Entertainment. This was a fantastic race, and the racing action is still set to continue at Indianapolis in just 1 week's time. But for tonight, I think that just about does it. So for myself, Ron Mullins, Jeremy Briggs joining me in the commentary booth, and Marty Zacala doing a fantastic job working all the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your night, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.